to get us started.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Tasha. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Good afternoon. I am Kyle, Kyle Goss, but most people just call me Kyle. And I am the community group leader for the Salesforce Black In Tech group. And I'm here with Tasha Rucker and Bree Maddox and Michelle Larson and our partner in crime, KB, Kyle Battle, the anchor man. He will be coming in a little bit later on today. And we are going to be talking about acing that technical interview. It is super important, especially now in the ever-growing Salesforce ecosystem, that you have the technical skills to pass through the interviews, but you can also interview well. I know that everybody I've talked to in the Salesforce ecosystem is really smart, really good, really, and but they need that ability to pass a technical interview. And I know talking about flows and talking about when to use like a certain feature over another, that can be kind of daunting. And then you'll see the example and it gets you thrown off. So to warm us up, before we start talking with Bree Maddox and Michelle Larson about how to prep for an interview, and also with Michelle Larson with Mag Mutual about open Salesforce opportunities, I'm going to show you one example of a technical interview I actually have to go through, and I'm going to walk you through it. It's probably only going to take 6 to 8 minutes. It's going to be really really fun. And if you want me to share this with anybody afterwards, just send me a quick email and I'll send it to you on LinkedIn or directly through email, whichever one you want. So let's get this thing started. So I'm going to show you, this one. This is it. I hope you guys can see it. Also put some notes to the side and tell you, what it's calling for you to do. So this is one of my more recent ones. Currently, I'm a Salesforce consultant with a company called Komodo Health. We are a Salesforce Health and Life Sciences partner. Mainly, I work with pharmaceutical companies and doctors to create software built on the Salesforce platform to help measure the effectiveness of new pharmaceuticals that have been approved by the FDA. That's a mouthful, but mainly I track the drugs. There you go, track the drugs. All right, so to get this job, I had to actually do this scenario that you see right here. It was quick. They gave me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to build this, but it was being completely observed by them the entire time. So let's look at it. Kalos Biopharma has a new drug, and it's been approved by the FDA. Like I said, matches what I do now. And the sales reps will be observing surgeries and using this stent and these implants during surgery. So Kalos reps will need a profile of these surgeries and see how the people are involved. So first things first, the minute I see a sales rep or anything like that, I want to make this easy to use. So I'm going to what? That's right. I'm going to make an app. That's the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to know on my mind, I need to make an app for this. Okay. So that's how you see that. First things first, you start seeing anything like with a particular profile, particular use package, anything like that, think app. Think that in your head. All right. Now let's go over the general business requirements. So reps record surgeries and track key surgery details, including where the surgery took place. Okay, so I'm probably gonna need something like an account, something like that. Don't always think, create a new custom object or something like that. Think about what's already there, because the entire time that you're creating these things, they want to see how you think. They want to see how you think, how you're processing information, how you're reading those requirements, and then just your overall Salesforce knowledge. I know we all use Google as a friend, but when you're on the spot in these technical interviews, you can't use Google. You got to make it on the spot. All right. So first things first, I'm going to make an account or convert it over to the person account. If I know I'm working in Health Cloud, it's definitely going to be person account. Next, people participating in the surgery. Okay, probably going to need some kind of field, for recording all the participants maybe. All right, next, type of surgery, single, double, quadruple bypass. They're lobbing that to you. That is a pick list. That's a pick list select. We'll probably figure out later, do we need to have some dependencies or something like that? Then after that, in case a quadruple bypass is selected, a rep must enter surgery notes. So that's two things. You need to create a notes field, but you need to put a validation rule on that field in case quadruple bypass is selected. Then after that, surgery date and time, easy enough. It's a date and time field, super straightforward. You're good to go. And then the CORNX products used in the surgery. Okay, so it's probably pointing to another pick list. Okay, we're not gonna, you gotta remember, you only got like 90 minutes to 2 hours. Can't get all in products and price lists and that and none of that stuff. That's a little too involved. And then we're moving on next. So we can say reps can add people to the system and track their key attributes. Okay, data entry. You automatically got to start thinking about fields, how we're going to get all this information in, that kind of stuff. So first things first, probably a role or a title, basic, basic field, basic text field. Then a specialty, subspecialty, or a degree for surgeons only. Again, that's another live, that's another pick list. Okay, but it's a conditional pick list. Okay, so if they were a surgeon, then I need to collect that specialty, subspecialty, and degree. You can fill that stuff in as you need. And then the hospital where people are employed. That points to, I can make a record type, an organization record type on the account to do that. Okay, real simple, super straightforward there. You just have to think about it creatively. Okay, then next, the rep's target list of hospitals is predefined. Okay, predefined, automatically going to start making you think about things like pick list, things like that. Okay, they give me a couple of these to select. I'm going to make these.
Kyle. Quick question. While you're doing this, are you talking the solution through like out loud? Are you just kind of doing things like, are you explaining why you're doing the things that you're doing and kind of the thought process out loud? Just a question that was in the chat.
Excellent question, Bree. I'm sorry I didn't see that chat. I'm sorry. I apologize. Believe it or not, for some of this I am talking, but usually at the end, after I've made everything, I'll line up the solution and I'll kind of pretty much make those requirements like a checklist and say, okay, you asked for this, I made this by doing this. You asked for this, I made this by doing this, but referencing this pick list, things like that. So they like that because they're like, oh, you can talk to it, especially if you're interviewing for something like a consultant or a BA, because they also want you to be what? Client facing. They also want you to have some soft skills, things like that. They also want you to be able to talk to the technology and make the lay person feel comfortable, because you got to remember, your client, they don't speak Salesforce. They speak their industry. Your job as a BA or a consultant, or maybe even a solutions architect, is to take their jargon, take what they're saying, and make it relatable to Salesforce. So that's why when you're interviewing for consultants, whether it be a junior, senior, or BA, or solutions architect, from my experience, this is the kind of stuff they're looking for. So immediately jump to the technical interview. The usual, soft skill interview is like really short. They, give you a couple basic Salesforce questions to ask you, but beyond that, they stick to this. So I've had 3 different Salesforce jobs, and I've had 3 technical interviews. And anytime I look for any other work, it's always a technical interview. It's always like I haven't had one where it wasn't. So when I was talking to other Salesforce colleagues, I was like, "Oh wow, y'all don't do that? Like y'all don't have to go through that."
Okay, another question, Kyle, from Pearl Lee. Does the conditional pick list equal to multi-pick list? Is that the same thing? Okay.
No. Okay. So you got 2 kinds of pick lists. Okay, so let's talk about it real quick, make it real short. Multi-select or conditional. Okay, conditional is this. Let's say you got pick list A and pick list B. You've got choices in pick list A. The choices in pick list A dictate the choices that exist in pick list B. That's a dependent pick list or conditional pick list. Then you have multi-select. That means you can select multiple choices and they go, into one pick list field. So yeah, completely. That's a good question though. Completely 2 different things though. Those are the kind of things they look for to see. Like, man, you know the difference between this and that. Oh yeah, you passed the admin, huh? Okay, yeah, we passed you. You platform admin builder too. Oh, pass them both back to back. That's nice. We're about to see. Okay, and that's how they do. So then it's also at the bottom, current products are the following, yada, 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 yada. We're going to put those values into that products pick list. So what you would do, no need to make a custom object, put all this in an app, switch on person account, make a couple of record types to separate, a physical account like a hospital versus an actual individual like a patient. Make sure make sure the reps have access to this stuff. And then that's it. 90 minutes, you speak through it. And then here's the other part. If you don't know something, it's okay not to know. Make everything else and say, hey, this is where I stumbled. I thought this. I thought this was a validation rule to do this. Oh, you wanted me to make this? Oh, okay. Because a lot of times they want to see your ability to think, your ability to conceptualize. You can hear the passion in my voice because I want all of you who are facing, these kind of problems when you're interviewing. I want you to ace this stuff and get over the hump, because I'm sure you all made it to the second round of interviews because you're smart, you're articulate, you got the certifications, you got some experience. But when they start throwing this stuff at you, this is where you trip. And the more I interview, the more I'm out, the more I talk to recruiters, I'm starting to see more and more of this kind of stuff. All right, does anybody have any questions? Because if not, I'm about to move on to, the people you're really here to talk to, Bree Maddox and Michelle Larson. All right, well, then I'm good. Y'all can take the screen. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Good to go. Bye.
All right, I will share my screen now. And I will tell you all that I encourage you to ask questions, engage, challenge me. If you know something different or you've seen something different, let us know, educate us. I am always learning new things. I have been recruiting more than half of my life. I hate to say that, it just kind of ages me in a way, but I've been recruiting a long time in tech. And I've worked with a lot of hiring managers, specifically in the ecosystem. And so I hope that along with Michelle's advice and Tasha and Kyle, that you guys are able to get over the hump, as he says, and really put some of these practical tips to use. So what we're going to go through today, maybe if it'll work. No, here we go. So preparing you for your interview. Technical interview questions. Some are behavioral, situational, and technical. Let's talk about what those are and how to answer them. And then what are hiring managers really looking for? So preparing for your interview. I cannot emphasize this one enough. Be prepared. Set yourself up to win. You already have what's necessary to do the work. It's just literally like telling them, I am capable, I deserve this opportunity, I am worthy. Set yourself up to win. And when I say that, that means practice, 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 practice. Do your research on the company and the person that's interviewing you. Go on LinkedIn, look them up. Do y'all have anything in common? Do they like the same sports teams? Do they like to go to art museums? Look it up. And be able and willing to share what you know about the company, what their values are, what they're passionate about, what's most important to them, know the job description, and know who's interviewing you. If it's a person, if it's a team, look them up. How long have they been with the company? Where did they start? Are they new to the team? Ask and be prepared to ask questions. I can tell you that nothing excites hiring managers more when you have you're like, yep, I got questions. It excites us. We're like, yes. So that's super, super important. Dress for success and think about your background. I cannot emphasize this enough, and you would think like I wouldn't even have to say this, but you do. Look before you go on screen, check it out. Look behind you. What's going on? Make sure that you look like you're prepared for an interview. Be prepared to ask questions, and again, tell your story. Be confident with what you're about to say. I'm interviewing for this role because of X, Y, and Z. I have the skills necessary to do the job because X, Y, and Z. Be ready to give real world examples, details, and stay on topic. Cannot emphasize that enough. Be prepared, role play. Have someone, the night before, look at yourself in the mirror when you're answering questions. Sometimes when you're on camera and you're excited, you can do strange things with your face and you don't even know that you're doing them. So record yourself, answering questions so that you can actually see how you show up. Again, be prepared. Test your technology before the interview. Join the call 10 minutes before. Make sure that you're ready to present. Make sure that the solution that you've prepared is ready to go. You do not want to have a technical error on your technical interview. That is not, it's not cool, and it definitely doesn't set the tone. It makes you look unprepared. Be prepared, be ready, practice. Organize your screens. Don't have a bunch of screens up. When you go in to demo your solution, be organized. Think these things through. The night before, demo it for someone else. Does this make sense? What am I missing? Ask them to poke holes in your solution. What if they ask you these questions? Be prepared and be honest. They ask you something and you don't know. I don't know that, but I'd be happy to do some research and figure that out. I haven't thought of that yet, but that's a great way for me to move forward. So be prepared to be honest and authentic, but confident in that you're applying and interviewing for the right opportunity. Michelle, you want to add anything there? I get fired up about this because I think like you set the tone with the prep.
I wanted to just add something that you said, and also Kyle said, you know, when you don't know, what Kyle said, when you don't know something, it's very good just to admit it. I have interviewed people sometimes, and I can tell that, especially virtually, it doesn't happen in person, but virtually I can see them Googling things when, you know, and reading stuff to answer the question, when I wish they would just say, you know, I'm not sure about that. We all like when people are honest better. And then just also to add, Bree, to what you said, when at the end of the interview, when somebody has their list of questions and they're really interested in the position and the day-to-day thing, that makes me really excited. There's some people that are just like, oh, no, I don't really have anything to ask, and I'm really disappointed, you know. So I really like when people ask their own questions about the company and the position.
I agree. Any other thoughts, comments, questions on this slide before we move forward? All right. So the interview questions, the spicy stuff. So behavioral. Technical interviews used to be like, here's your tech assignment, do this, go ahead. Now you're going to have some behavioral questions and sometimes some situational questions, especially if your role is client facing or customer facing. So the behavioral questions are, tell me about a time when you handled a challenging situation, or give me an example of a time when you worked effectively under pressure, or what happened when you made a mistake at work, or how did you react when that mistake was called in or called out. And so it's just like, these are behavioral questions. Be prepared to answer them. Again, back in the day, technical interviews were like, oh, just do these technical coding things and you're off to the races. If you are going to be interacting with customers, you're going to be dealing with some, areas of gray sometimes where customer might say, hey, can you build this for me? And it's like, oh, well, I can, but should I? Does it make good business sense? Is it in the statement of work? Should I check with my project manager first? So it's those kinds of things. Be prepared. Have a couple of answers, script it out, look in the mirror, record them, practice, because you will be asked behavioral questions. Michelle, anything left here? Do you have any behavioral questions or answers that you really like, are good, that as a hiring manager, tell me about a time when you handled a challenging situation. It's almost like, but also give me something that's on topic and is relatable, right? I think that's equally important. And so thinking about that ahead of time and being prepared to answer, because it's also, I don't know, it might not cast you in the best light if it takes you 10 minutes to figure out how to answer the question. And sometimes you get stumped. You're like, oh, this is a hard one. I don't know. Be prepared. Practice.
Yeah, it's that sweet spot. There's some people that don't talk enough, and then there's some people that won't shut up. You want to be that middle amount of time to respond to something. And I love your last question, Bree, like, what's a mistake you made? Because you can turn that into something, like show that you learned and makes you more human. And we want to work with we don't want to just work with a brain nerd. We want to work with a nice person that we can collaborate with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right, situational. So these are questions. What would you do if? What would you do if your teammate asked you to review their flow and it was incorrect? Would you give them honest feedback? Would you coach them? Like, how would you handle those situations? What the hiring manager is looking for is like, are you going to collaborate? Are you going to lean in to help them figure out the solution? Or are you going to go and tell your manager, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to fix their work for them instead of helping them and bringing them along? And so what they're looking for is work ethic. How are you going to go about working with teams and collaboration? But it's really about what's going on inside. It's not just about the technical piece. It's like, how will you handle some of these ambiguous situations? That's what they're really asking in the situational questions. What would you do if you were unsure about a task? You're on a project and you're given your task and you're like, I really don't know what to do here. What do you do? Are you going to go and seek to understand and get clarity? Are you going to trudge through it and just try to figure it out on your own? What's the thought process? And again, that's what hiring managers are really looking for. Are you going to be honest and say, I don't know, and then work with your manager or your mentor or whoever to figure out the solution? Or are you going to try to hide it and try to figure it out? And that's what they're really looking for.
Bree, can I comment on that?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I mean, that last part about the collaboration and not being clear on task and stuff, that's a key question. Been asked that 3 times, 3 for 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being asked that same question with 3 different companies. And what they're looking for is, your ability to gather requirements. And if you miss one, can you come back? Or if you have can you come back, get this and make sure? Because what you have to understand is if you don't gather the right requirements, the implementation is bad. If the implementation is bad, everything else is bad, and you're just spending more. The client's spending more money. We're spending more time. Everything is ran behind, and they want to make sure that you're going to be a strong asset. That we know you're going to make a mistake. We know you're going to miss questions. Things may be confusing, but you know how to properly atone for that and still keep trust with the client. Like that's like a huge thing. They want to be able to realize, like, okay, man, you can maintain that trust. You can appear confident. Assure them that you are confident and still, deliver a good product. So yeah, that last question is very important.
Your ability to problem solve. How do you think things through? I mean, that's a huge part of the interview process. It's not just as easy as like, do they say this? Do they say this? It's like, okay, but why? What's the why and the how behind everything? I think that's equally important. All right, technical. Woo. So at RedPath Consulting Group, we are a Salesforce implementation partner, and we specialize in nonprofit and higher education. So that's what we do. And so we give our developers a technical interview. We give our Salesforce consultants a technical interview. We do not give our admins technical interviews. We don't technical interview our project managers. So it's really developers and consultants. And so we give them this assignment. We give them 2 to 3 days to create their solution in a demo org, and then they can present it to us at their final interview. We don't make them do it on the spot. But what you do is you demo your solution. So this is what I did. This is how I did it. This is why I went about it doing this way. And I think the cool thing about when you get to see the solution and they're not being spied on for 2 hours is they are able to be a little bit more creative. They are able to, in a real world solution, you are going to be able to Google and do some research. And that's really what we want. We want to see how you're going to go about getting the solution. That's really what it's about. Are you going to create a fun dashboard? Are you going to make up a name? Are you going to put some bells and whistles on it to make it, visually more appealing? Those are the kinds, like, are you going to go above and beyond? And it's like at the end of the interview, if the hiring manager is wowed by your technical interview, you got it. You got the job. You got the job. You wow them at the technical interview. You answer the situational and behavioral questions. You will get the job, period. Being confident. This is why I did the things that I do. But when you go above and beyond of what's asked, that's like the icing on the cake. And hiring managers love that. Michelle? She's like, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would just, yeah, I would agree. I'm not a big fan of the live coding. I think that's stressful. So I like this approach much better, to give them a chance to have some time to work on it on their own, but then because they're presenting it afterwards, you know that it was really them that did it, and they didn't, have their friend do it for them or something. So I like
Yeah,
this
like walk
approach a
me
lot.
through your fake company and how did you, why did you do it this way? Or why did you use, flows instead of something else? Like, just walk us through it. At the end of the day, there's really no right or wrong answer, especially to these kinds of questions. It's really the process that you took to get there. And that's really what the hiring manager is looking for.
And we also have a question in the chat.
Sure.
How much time does the consultant get to build the technical scenario solution? For example, is it 24 hours or is it over a weekend?
That's a great
It
question. So in
ranges.
Kyle's case, they gave him his technical solution and he had to do it on the spot. So he didn't really get a chance to prepare. They said, here's the solution. You have 2 hours and we're going to watch you while you solution. So they watched him figure it out on the spot. At my company, we don't do that. We give you 2 to 3 days to get your solution. And then we schedule your interview and then you show us what you did. So I think for each company and each organization and for each role, it's going to be different. But I think when you go through your phone screen, that initial phone screen, ask the question, what is the technical interview going to be like? And that way you can start to like mentally prepare yourself for these rapid fire, we're gonna put you on the spot, or you're gonna have some time to think it through.
Thanks for that, Bree. And I want to pull Barney up to talk. Barney is if I'm correct in saying this, he's the CPO at Randstad. Do you want to introduce yourself real quick and give the audience here an idea of who you are? And I'm pretty sure that you have some great feedback. This is
thank you. Yeah, I'm not a CTO, but
okay.
I am,
Kyle promotes everybody, by the way. He gives everybody a promotion. Introduction.
Barney's the man. 20 years, Salesforce. 20 years, first dude I ever met doing this. He's the man. That's all I gotta say.
I am the technology director and chief Salesforce architect for Salesforce practice at Randstad Solutions. Gosh, my Salesforce journey started in 2002. So I've basically grown with Salesforce. I perform probably, so in Randstad Solutions, we do a lot of specialty placements, and I handle all of the Salesforce screens. And there are people on my teams, we handle like all sorts of technologies. So unfortunately, some of the trends we're seeing in the market is a lot of cheating. Right, we've even come into things like recently where people were transcribing the voice of the interviewer and having it automatically go into like that chat RBT, the OpenAI chatbot, and basically letting it like answer the questions for it and stuff like that. Right, so so we're trying to like come up with like a lot of strategies to mitigate the cheating. Like I've done 6 screens this week, and 3 of them were cheating. 2 were like lip syncs, and 1 person was getting fed answers. So
Barney, sorry to interrupt you. I actually saw that some interviewer actually recorded it and posted it on Twitter. That's how I knew that was a thing, that you would be like, it would be a voiceover of some kind.
Yes, that's very common. Like I'm actually an expert. I feel like I can like teach a forensic class on interview cheating. But yeah, so because of that, we have to go through a lot of like strategy. So what I do personally, when I do a screen for like a Salesforce developer, I'm not going to ask you to code, but I go into hypothetical scenarios, right? I don't want you to be able, I'm not big on definitions. So I'll go through a hypothetical scenario. I'll give you an example of like a company that's like just a very standard org. And then I'll give you an example, right? I'll say, like one of my questions would be, we have in this Salesforce org, whenever an opportunity is set to a closed won status, a record gets created in the order object. This is done with an after update trigger on the opportunity. We have a service ticket where 25% of the time we have duplicate records being created on the order object. How would you debug this? What do you think the issue is, and how would you fix it? Right. I'll give that scenario, and I want us to have a conversation. Right. The candidates who have a conversation with me, we can continue. The ones who try to turn it into a question. So are you asking me, how do you handle duplicates, things like that? I know that makes me give them a side eye a little bit. Right. Because, okay. And then, the ones who pause and things like that, I'm giving them a side eye. Right. And then the next part of that, I'll say, okay, the client now wants to convert that to a flow. Right. Because I want to give some sort of hands-on for like developers. We're going to do some sort of flow on the spot. For my architect level candidates, we're going to go into like a quick whiteboarding session or something like that, because I have to have some sort of on the spot validation that you are who you are and that you can handle some things on the spot. Because as architects, we can be in a client meeting all the time where you get like where they throw you a Sharpie and you got to go to a whiteboard. Right. And that's something that's like very common in the industry. So that's something that I will try to show out in the tech screens. But in my team, we talk about this all the time, because that's one of the big things that we do at Randstad is like specialty placements. My team, we do like all the technology. So another thing that we focus on is like the experience you have in your resume. So like our focus is going to be like with the technical. Like we're going to ask you, like we're going to pick out what seems to be the most technical thing in your resume and have you go into it and see how confident you are to explain it. Because a lot of times, people are guilty of taking credit for other people's decisions and putting that on their resume. So we want to go in and we want to see, were you the one that did it, and can you explain it? And then, we'll ask you, okay, so why did you take this approach versus that approach? And, and branch off of that. So it's like really evolving. Like I was even just now, I got off a call because, it's the technical screening process is so subjective, because my screen versus somebody else who does it, somebody else will say, hey, well, this person didn't know this thing specific. And then I say, but he seems fine to me. It's like, it's so subjective, and but there are some tried and true methods.
Yes, Barney coming through with the knowledge and the facts. All right. So yeah, thank you for that. Any questions for Barney?
Well, we do have a question in the chat. How many interviews can you expect for a role? So I think Barney, Bree, and Michelle.
I'd say 2 to 3.
It depends on the client. So typically, so you'll have a recruiter that reaches out to you typically, right? That's going to be the first line, and they'll have like a list of like just qualifying questions. And then they'll send that to the hiring manager. So the hiring manager, sometimes the hiring manager feels comfortable enough to screen you themselves, and then they'll make the decision, or they'll give you to like one of their team members to like screen you. And then if the team member likes you, then they'll pass you to them. Right, typically, or it could be like sometimes, if you're talking about like for like a Deloitte or an Accenture or something like that, you go in front of a panel of like 4 or 5 people, right, before they make a decision. So it really depends on the role.
Yeah, and I can speak to where at RedPath, my company, I do an intro call with you. If, essentially, if you pass the sniff tests with me, you're given a phone screen with the hiring manager. If that call goes well, the hiring manager can say, yep, I'm going to pull the trigger and I'm going to hire this person. If the hiring manager then says, well, I kind of want to know a little bit more, or I want a second opinion, maybe they'll get the technical assignment, or maybe they'll do another soft skill interview with maybe 2 or 3 other team members. I would say it varies depending upon the role and the applicant. I think if you can really impress the hiring manager during that initial phone screen, you really are setting yourself up for success. Any other questions in regards to technical interview questions?
No, I didn't see any more come through, so I think we're good to go.
Okay, cool. So what are hiring managers looking for? So Barney, I'm sure you can speak to this. Michelle can speak to that, but what are they looking for? Whether it's a contract role or whether it's a full-time permanent role, what are they looking for? Problem solving capabilities. Talk through your process and how you came to your solutions. They want to know how you came, how you got the answer. You know, are you curious? Are you eager to learn new things? Are you, you know, a lifelong learner? You just want to continue to improve. That is very attractive to a hiring manager. Collaboration. A lot of what, especially in the Salesforce ecosystem, collaboration is extremely important. Whether you're working on staff augmentation or projects, you're usually working on a team. There's, you know, you're responsible for a piece of the work, but we expect and really love collaboration. So did you reach out to others? What kind of research did you do? Did you reach out to mentors or peers or a senior consultant to get the solution, to bounce ideas off? We're really looking for that collaboration piece. And then the curiosity and love for continuous learning. Are you curious? I find that the best consultants, architects, developers are curious. They like to ask the right questions. And it's not just asking questions, but asking the right questions, right? And then being confident. Your swag, your confidence goes a long way. If you come into the interview looking like you're doubtful, not looking confident and secure, it will show. Look the interviewer in the eye, be direct, protrude confidence. It's extremely important. And managers will definitely be looking for that. Michelle, were you going to say something? I see you smiling.
Just agreeing and listening. Yeah, I agree with everything you said here. Work, you know, being interested, what loving to learn, collaborating, and being enthusiastic. Yeah.
Kyle, do you have any other thoughts on what the hiring manager is looking for? Because 9 times, and I will also tell you this, I would say within the first 10 to 15 minutes, my managers know if they want to hire you. I honestly believe that. They know.
I would think that. They're looking for
Yeah.
confidence, obviously. They're looking
It's like
also
the way that you show up.
Yep, the way that you
The
show
way
up to
we
be a
see
natural
you is
learner.
like, ooh, I want that person on my team.
Yep,
You know what I
totally.
mean? And you get that feeling 10, 15 minutes in where it's like, I'm ready to make a move. I'm about to call the hiring manager, tell them I found their person. We about to get the ball rolling. You're excited. They're energized. If you as the hiring manager are energized and excited, you know, you already know. And so set the tone early, come in and knock their socks off. And then I will say one other thing that I didn't say before you end your interview and you're asking those questions, the one question that you should absolutely always ask, are there any questions that I did not answer for you today? Do you have any reservations about moving forward with me? Ask the manager. That gives them the opportunity to tell you, actually, I would like to know a little bit more about this. Or no, I don't have any other questions. I'm good. But ask the question.
May have been asked that question, like, I can count on one hand, maybe like 3 times.
It's
nobody
the
else.
best question. I've been telling people, like, I know that it puts you out there, but it also puts the hiring manager kind of on the spot to give you some honest feedback, which is really helpful. If I did not do well in this interview, please tell me so that I don't continue to do it.
Yeah, Bree.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear me. My earphones are bad, but yeah, I've been asked that question. I mean, I've asked that question at my current position. I asked when I was interviewing, and they gave me the rundown, and they like what they heard. I like what I heard, and I think, but the decision to hire was immediate. I got a call the next day, like, look, we're going forward. When can you start?
Absolutely.
but back to
Yes,
that
they
confidence
should.
and the ability to collaborate, that's real. Like if you're confident and you're not stumbling through stuff and you're very conversational, you're making them feel at ease about everything, but you're not cocky. It's like that fine line. They're usually good. It's usually good
Forward
money after that.
thinking, solution oriented, you're a problem solver.
Now, I will
I like to
add
solve problems.
for those highly technical roles, a lot of times you'll have frustrated hiring managers because they've had a lot of people, they've probably had a couple of resources that haven't worked out. So you want to reassure them in a way that makes them feel better about you than a previous resource, however that may be. Whether it be from like a technical perspective or a team perspective. But there's typically, you typically have like frustrated hiring managers. So
Especially when the position's been open a while, it's an urgent need. The project is suffering because they don't have the person in place. And so that's an added stress.
Yes.
You can come in there and get yourself a job if you're prepared and ready to go. If they see you as someone that can come in and make an immediate impact, like, oh my gosh, if this person starts next week, I can get my project from red to yellow. Immediate impact.
Before November of 2022, it was pretty much impossible to get like a Salesforce technical resource. Now it's not impossible. But yeah, so there was like always a lot of frustration, but now it's getting a lot easier. So
yeah.
Well, we do have a question in the chat. How about the company recruiters asking me about my expected salary question? I think that that's a great question. Maybe how to respond to that. And then also, is it appropriate to ask what is the starting salary or what's the salary range for this role? So I think that I sort of added in that second question there because I know that that's been, concerns for some folks as they've been out there and they've been trying to find a job. And how do they approach that question? Like, is it too early in the first interview? Some people are thinking, I don't want to waste my time if it's, not within the salary range that I'm looking for. So if you could talk to both of those questions, that would be great.
Okay. So I think a company should always post what the range is. I think it's just equitable and fair. That's what the company should do. If the company doesn't do that, then ask, because your time is valuable and you don't want to waste time. And so if someone says, hey, Bree, I'm super interested in this opportunity, I've applied, can you share the pay range with me? Because I'm very interested and I would like to know. Why not? Absolutely. You don't want to waste your time. And the hiring company shouldn't want to waste your time either. Like, the hiring process should be good, even if it's like, this isn't a good fit for you right now, let me call you in 6 months, but it should be a conversation that should be had. I mean, if you're interviewing someplace and they're like, no, we don't want to give you that information, or there's a tone, do you really want to work there? I mean, I think that's the question.
Right.
But I always think it's okay to ask about compensation up front. Absolutely.
Oh, right.
There's another good question about asking about remote work. How do you
Yes.
approach the question of remote work? That's a good one, Kate.
If it's not on the job description, if it doesn't say remote or hybrid, I'm located in Minnesota. The job is in New York. I applied. You called me. I'm assuming you're okay with remote work. But I'm going to ask just to confirm. I'm in Minnesota. Are you open to remote workers? And they'll let you know, yes or no.
Now, what about the flip side of that, about negotiating with employers who, maybe potentially it's a in-person, I don't know, working from the office, and they don't have flexibility. I think that's, I still see there are some Salesforce partners, or I wouldn't say partners, but maybe customers, Salesforce customers that might prefer their resource to work in the office as opposed to remote, or, they may not even be flexible to having a mixed sort of arrangement. What are your thoughts on how to address that?
So if you are doing your research, you're applying for an organization and you know that they don't have that hybrid remote policy and that's not part of the culture, don't apply, because they're not going to change it for you if that is not their policy. I think that if you are engaging with an employer, and again, I'm in Minnesota, the job's in New York, and we're getting into a discussion about, Bree, we really want to have you on board. However, we need you to be in the office 2 to 3 days a week. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to be in the office 2 to 3 days a week, but what I can do is maybe a week a quarter. Can we negotiate or meet somewhere in the middle? And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. But ask those questions during that first phone screen, so you're not wasting any time. Are you open to me working from Minnesota, except for once a quarter? Are you open to those things? Have that open dialogue with the hiring manager. They'll definitely respect you more for doing it sooner rather than later. Letting them know, your position and where you're at. But I think that, again, know where you're applying. Do your research. If they are like, you're coming into the office 5 days a week, don't try to convince them to let you work remotely. That's not their policy. It's not what they're going to do for one person.
Yeah, and to add to that, make sure that you ask them what the long-term plan is. Like, is it remote, hybrid, what have you? Because you have a lot of managers and a lot of companies now, because there's been another trend of people having like multiple jobs who are remote, multiple full-time jobs, especially with your like developers and QA resources. And QA has been a very big problem for some reason. QA, yeah, I don't know why. I guess I don't know why QA, but so it's.
I feel like it's been that way for a long time, Barney, with QAs too. Like that's not.
Yeah, so it's like but so managers, so there's like when you do your background check, that company that does your background check, they track all the data, right? And now they're selling that. So now they're offering as a service to companies to see like who has been paying you a paycheck recently, right? So if you've been getting a paycheck from 2 different sources and you do a background check, the company's going to know that during this time period, you're getting checks from 2 different people, and that's going to draw up a flag now. Companies are starting to track that. And that's the reason why people are starting to bring people on site, especially certain like roles, because of that. And you don't have the confidence of the manager. But it could be when you have the confidence of the manager, you're good. So it could be like a case-by-case basis. But make sure when you inquire about remote, the long-term strategy and not like the short-term, because a lot of companies just have like a short-term COVID policy that's coming to an end.
Yep. Great point.
Thanks for answering that. It looks like we have another question here in the chat. Can you provide an opinion on a 1-page resume versus 2 if new to the ecosystem and have transferable skills but not direct Salesforce experience?
Okay, so the 1-page resume is hard if you've got experience, it's hard to like quantify all that you've done. But I will say, tailor your resume to the role that you're applying for. Take out things that are dated or are not relevant. So I have like a lot of experience on my resume. I've cut a lot of it out to like the last 7 to 10 years, because the other stuff is just like, is it relevant? Maybe, but it's a lot. And so I say 2 pages max, but tailor your resume to the position that you're applying for. Change the profile. Make sure that you've got the buzzwords from the job description in the resume. It is critical. Review the job description and plug the buzzwords in to your resume strategically under each position. A lot of times what we do, recruiters, HR, we do keyword searches on your resume. Your resume comes through, we control F it, we'll type in Salesforce, we'll type in implementation, we'll type in Sales Cloud, we'll type in Flow, and see how many times it comes up on your resume. Now we have applicant tracking systems that actually do that work for us. So by the time that the resume comes to my email, it's already pulled all the buzzwords out and it's rated your resume on a scale of 1 to 10 based upon the keywords in your resume. And the ones with the high buzzwords go to the top of the pile. Tips and tricks. So if you have relevant information on your resume and you need to keep it on there and it pushes your resume to 3 pages, keep it. You know, but keep it on topic, relevant, and customized to the job that you're applying. You can't submit the same resume that you're applying for an admin to a consultant. You need to customize it. The roles are different. So just take the time, again, practice, be crazy about it because it's important and it really sets the tone. My dog's gonna bark, so I'm gonna go on mute, but Barney, Kyle?
I mean, I don't know. For me, I've kept the same ridiculously long resume because I never knew what to do with the condensed stuff, and I haven't had a problem. But now I know I probably need to condense it because that thing's like 4 pages now.
I defer.
You add the whole education and cert thing and all that. That can get crazy. But what I've also started to do lately is give them like an electrical or electronic interview. Like I made one like in Tableau with like timelines and links and all that kind of stuff. That's been pretty cool.
The other
But
thing I will say is make sure your LinkedIn profile is updated. You've got a good picture up there that represents you. You've got a good tagline. It's current, up to date. It's got those key buzzwords in it. It shows intentionality. In the tagline, I'm looking for my first role in the Salesforce ecosystem. I'm looking for my next opportunity as a Salesforce consultant, but make sure that your profile speaks to the hiring managers that are going to be looking at your profile, because we look at those too. When you apply and your application comes through, yep, I go to LinkedIn. I'm looking you up. I want to see who we have in common. Where did you work? What's your experience? I'm going to look at all of those things. So just make sure that everything is polished and you're prepared. Practice, practice, practice.
Definitely defer to Bree because my resume, gosh, I'm embarrassed to say it's like 12 pages. So.
Technical resumes do be long. You guys got all the technical stuff y'all got on there. Then you put technical stuff under each, like, yo, it's wild. So
I have projects and it's all project based. Yeah, I'm it's bad. Luckily, I don't like apply for jobs often, so I don't have to like update it.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for that question. Well, I know that we might have some folks here that are probably still trying to think about some questions from a technical interviewing standpoint. While you're thinking about those questions, I want to bring up Michelle. Michelle is a, well, Michelle, I think it would probably be better if you introduce yourself. So you have some positions at your organization. So I think it'll be a good time for us to talk about that. And then we could circle back to any questions about the technical interviews. How about that?
That sounds great. I can give you a quick introduction and then I'm going to share my screen. I have a few slides as well to show. So while you're bringing that down, Bree, I'll go ahead and start talking. My name is, the sun is coming through I'm in a western facing room of my house. My name is Michelle Larson. I've been with MagMutual for 4 years, and I've been a senior developer there for 4 years. And before that, I've been doing Salesforce development since 2012. And before that, I was a Java developer since 2000. And then before that, I'm not going to say anything else because then you'll know how old I am. So let me go ahead and get my screens up and we can go through. Let's see. All right. And oops. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see my screens?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you so much for staying on the call, everyone, and thanks for having me here today. I really enjoyed it a lot because it's been a while since I interviewed. I mean, I interviewed people, but it was nice to see all those tips. I appreciate that. So MagMutual is the largest mutual insurance company for physicians. And because of that, we use Salesforce to help our policyholders. For example, we use Service Cloud. We just started using that last year, and AWS. A lot of times when our physicians call us, it's really a critical time, and it's really nice for when they call in that AWS and Service Cloud pops. You know, our doctors are usually in the contact or the account records, and it's nice to have that contact record pop right up when they're calling in, so we can help them right away and know all about them. Another thing that we did last year is we pushed out 2 communities, which I'm supposed to say Experience Cloud. We have one community for our policyholders, our doctors. They can log in and look at their billing data, their policy information. We have another community that is for our insurance agents, and so they can look at all their different policyholders and a lot of the same data, but they are 2 different communities. So even though I've worked on the consultant side, like Kyle and Bree, I did that for 7 years. So I've worked as a consultant and at these companies like MagMutual. And so even though when you're a consultant, you work on a whole bunch of different exciting, cool stuff, but I feel like at MagMutual, there are a lot of really great projects to work on. And all the stuff that we did last year was a very small team. It was me and one other developer and one other admin and 2 product owners. And because everything has been going so well for the company and for our Salesforce projects, we are going to be expanding into 3 teams. And so that's why I'm kind of here to walk you through that. So let me get to the next slide. Okay. So for your career path at MagMutual, we all want to, well, most of us want to advance our career path. So we have really defined the different career paths in Salesforce, the Salesforce Administrator career path and the Salesforce Developer career path. And we have definitions for the requirements and the skills for every level. And this allows you to know, how can I move up to the next level, so you don't get kind of stuck and bored in one place in your career. And then the next thing I want to talk about was interest. We kind of talked about that with Bree, being interested in the job, right? Well, once you get the job, you want to stay, interested while you're at the job, and what are the different technologies, and we work with you, what you're interested in, so we can match the project to what you would like to do. For example, I really like to work on Lightning Web Components, and I've been working on them for a long time, but I still feel like I could really improve myself. I'm not ready. I haven't gotten bored of that yet. And so I really always say, hey, I want to be on this, on those 2 experience sites that I was telling you about earlier. Those have a lot of custom Lightning Web Components. So I continue wanting to work on projects where I can do that. And I feel like I'm, being heard, that I'm allowed to do that. The next slide I want to talk about is, not next slide, the last piece on this slide, the technology expertise. We were talking about collaboration earlier with Bree, and when you're on a team, all of us are strong at certain things and weak at certain things, and it's the best thing for our policyholders is if we're all collaborating and all, filling in for each other. And that's what makes a team so great. I'm going to go to the next slide. Do you guys have any questions so far?
I'm not seeing in any of the chat as of right now.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go to the next. Okay, so what I was talking about earlier is, we do have positions that we're looking for in all different parts of this slide of the Salesforce administrator as well as the Salesforce developer. We are looking for. We do have open positions for junior levels for both the Salesforce administrator and the developer, the mid-level Salesforce administrator and Salesforce developer, as well as the senior level. So we have all these open, and here, we just have, like I mentioned earlier, we have definition skills for each level of what we expect, and that you can keep moving up. And I also wanted to talk about, like, the right part of this slide is if you can hop around, like, let's say you want to be let's say you are a Salesforce administrator, but you want to start coding. Well, then you just need to speak up and say that, and then you can start doing that, and we can start mentoring you if you want to be a Salesforce developer. So I just wanted to show on the right part of the slide that you can, jump around. You don't have to stay on the admin track or the developer track. You can move over to the release train engineer or admin. Okay, I'm going to go to the next slide. Oops. Hold on. Oh, yes, I think that was the next one I wanted to go through. Yes. Okay. So earlier I said that we were one team, right? And now we're going to be turned into 3 teams. So this first team, because we have all these new things we rolled out last year, we already have a support. We already have like a support team. Like, Salesforce is not the only technology at MagMutual. So that we have 2, it would be 2 junior people that would be in the production support, and they would be, working with our other support team, and they would do minor enhancements, create Jira service tickets. We have, like I said, there's 2 positions. We have 1 filled already, but we're still looking for a junior level person, and they could have maybe they don't have they haven't had a Salesforce job yet. Maybe they've just had, if they've done like 100 Salesforce badges, trailheads, that's great. And then if they've been working in support and they want to grow, they can move into our automation optimizers team. That's the middle part of the slide. So I've been talking a lot about Salesforce, but we do have a lot of other systems. Like when we write a policy for a doctor, that's not done in Salesforce, that's done in another system, but that data flows into that data flows into Salesforce, the policy data, and then we close one an opportunity if we write that policy. So there's all this API integration work, and that's a lot of, if you're a developer, that's a lot of Apex code. We also have like the Sales Cloud, the Service Cloud, and the Marketing Clouds. That's more like declarative. So we do have 2 admins on that team and 2 devs on that team. That's what we want to have, but right now we only have 1 dev on that team, so we're looking for another developer. And I think that the 2 admin positions on that team are filled. So we're looking just for 1 dev on this optimizer, automation optimizer. The third team, which is the furthest to the right on this slide, is the digital customer experience team. And that is the team that I will be moved to. That's doing so I can continue working on Lightning Web Components. And those are our Experience Cloud sites. And on that team, we still need another developer for that, and we also need another admin. So, so I'm going to stop talking. Oh, and actually, all the salary requirement and the working remote that we were talking about earlier, I'm glad we talked about that, because these jobs are remote. We're headquartered in Atlanta, but we do have like, we are asking for people in the Eastern time zone or in Bree's Central time zone. We're looking, so those are the criteria. Now I do go to the, I have a strict rule for myself. My funny strict rule is that wherever I get a job, it has to be on near MARTA station, MARTA train station. And Bree, that's our buses and subway in Atlanta.
I am very familiar with the ABU. I know what the
Okay.
MARTA is.
Okay, so yeah, and so I can walk to the MARTA station from my house, and then if and then my job, it has to be on a MARTA station. So, but the only time we go to the office is kind of for social events or big company meetings, or when we onboard somebody. So those are, but otherwise it's remote, because we are very, we're a lot more productive when we're remote. Some of us are, so that's how it's been working. So yeah, I think that was all I had. And let me just go to the last slide has my email. If you want to reach out and ask me any questions.
I have some questions, Michelle.
Yeah.
I'm not going to apply because I am not qualified, but do you do a technical interview?
Yeah, yes, we will be. Yeah,
Okay.
Honestly, I have not done, I will be doing technical interviews. I have not done any yet, because some of this people that we want everybody to start at the same time at the end of February. And a lot of the, I said like 2 or 3 of the roles have been filled. They were admins. So I kind of let the admin people do that part, but with the developer stuff, I will be a lot more involved in the developer interviews, and I will be doing technical. And yeah, I will be doing technical interviews for them.
I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
How important are certifications? Are certifications required? Because I'm gonna tell you, and we got 6 minutes, but this is a spicy conversation, because a lot of times people will have like 10 certs, they come in and they don't know jack. And so I know that the Salesforce ecosystem is like, you must get certs, but you also need real world experience. Like, the paper is the paper. And so I'm curious, is like, how important are the certs for you?
There's a lot of mixed opinion about that on my team. I would say, so for me personally, I agree with, so I do like people to have certifications. I do like them to have that, but at the same time, if you don't, there are people, going back to the cheating thing, I have heard about people that do these dumps of questions, and then that's how they're able, I have worked with people that are certified that have been terrible. So I agree with you. Yeah. So if you don't have it, I'm not going to hold it against you.
Test takers. We've had some people, we've hired people, and they're like, yeah, I can take these tests, but then we go to like do billable work, and it's like, you don't know nothing.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we've hired people with not one cert, but have been doing the work for like 5 or 6 years, no certifications. They come in and they're senior level consultants, no certifications. And so it's hard to be like, and you have to have a cert. So what we started doing with our job descriptions is like, we don't care if you have the cert. The ability to get the cert, yes. But if you already have the cert, it means nothing until it's actually applied and I can see that you can do the work.
Yeah.
The only ones I pay attention to are CTA and PD2 and the architect one that has the security, the identity and that identity architect one.
Because you can't fake your way through those.
But the thing is, the certifications show your commitment to the platform. They don't, and that's why that's why you like to see people have them, because it shows that people are serious about the platform and are wanting to learn more, and they took the time out to get the certs. But I wouldn't use them as just an indicator of somebody's ability, unless you're talking about the CTA or
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? That's typically, I mean, I see the certs, I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I don't like
exactly. But what
just
do you
like
do?
I like, same thing with like colleges, right? I look at it and I just see, I went to Georgia, right? So I just see if I can like troll you about football. That's the only thing I pay attention to when I see college on resumes. And then, then we just talk about like, what you know, what you don't know.
Yeah.
I think the JavaScript certification is very hard. So I think that's very impressive, that JavaScript one. And I think the Experience Cloud, like I took that one and passed that one. That was, I learned a lot doing that one too. So I think those are two good ones too.
Those were my only questions, Michelle.
Okay.
I was just curious because, we used to have like, you must have like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Pardot, like you needed to have all these things. And as we started like talking about diversity and equity and going back to, are we setting people of color up for success in these roles? Maybe we need to reevaluate what we're putting in our job description. So we just eliminated that piece and we talked to it in the interview as if you don't have any certifications, our expectation is within 6 months, you'll obtain one. And again, I know somebody was saying, first job, Salesforce consultant, I only had the admin cert. But then someone said next job, they wanted the certs because they were partner and they valued
that's
level
me.
2 certs.
That was me, because I remember I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take this. Go,
so
Barney.
for their partner status, like if you're a global strategic partner or platinum or whatever, they get judged on the number of certified research. Yeah.
Yep.
Me personally, I had the 401, and then I took the beta for all the architect ones, and I got those. And those were the only ones I had until like 2017 when I joined Deloitte, and Deloitte gave me vouchers. I was like, oh yeah, I got vouchers. So I just literally just went and took them all and got them. Like for myself.
Salesforce partners, they give you the vouchers to get your consultants certed up.
Vouchers, yay! For the sales consultant one, the Sales Cloud one. I was literally bored at Dreamforce. Like woke up, was like, hey, let me go get a cert.
Okay, Barney, now don't go showing off. Now,
I didn't show off.
You didn't have to say that.
That's
somebody
that was the
truly
flex.
showing off. Yeah, that was flexing.
That was a flex.
That was so
ridiculous.
I woke up in the morning and said I need a cert, so I went and got the Sales Cloud.
I did it in my sleep. No big deal.
I took PD1 in the middle of the night. That was hungover, but I passed.
True story.
I love it.
So yes,
right.
So Salesforce partners, yes. I know we're about to be over in a second, but yeah, we do get certifications. The thing about the cert is, as a partner, we can't put you on a billable project if you don't have a cert. We can't bill the customer for the work you do on a project if you don't have a certification. And so that's why a lot of times partners are pushing the certs, because we need you to be billable so we can make money. And sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't. I think just trying to find the best people, the right people in the right seats is super important. So.
I absolutely agree with that last point, Bree. For sure. Right person.
Yeah, the right people in the right seat. Yeah. I think more so than anything, like you can have all of the bells and whistles, but if they don't mesh with the mission and vision and the team and the direction of the organization, it's not going to work. And I also think it's equally important for potential employees, do some self-reflection and be like, what are some things that I will absolutely not tolerate at work? You're interviewing them, but they're interviewing you. It goes both ways. If you're going through this interview and you're like, this company is crazy, thank you for the time, but I'm going to start looking in a different direction. You can be choosy too. You don't have to take whatever comes your way. You can be selective. You are worthy of a great opportunity. And so be selective and be choosy. Don't just take anything that comes your way. And I'm out.
Great points, Bree. All right, so we're on until 5:30 Eastern today. So what I want to do is continue to go through questions. It looks like we do have a question here. Does it look strange if we apply to a job with a customized resume, but then have a general LinkedIn profile? I think, Bree, you may have answered this in the chat, but if there's anything else that anyone wanted to expand on,
As long as
please
the
let me know.
experience matches up, like it doesn't look like a different person. And, I think it's like, is it going to make me question your resume, or is it going to make me question who you are? But I think as long as there's overall consistency, I don't think that that's a problem. Your resume is not going to look just like your LinkedIn profile, but they should mirror each other, especially the employment history, the dates. They should line up and be accurate, because those are the things that hiring managers will look for. But as far as like the formatting looking different, or maybe different words or phrases, that's totally fine.
So another thing that we're seeing in the market is a lot of plagiarism. We're actually building a plagiarism checker.
There's a
like
tool.
Internally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like literally I could go on my Google Drive, take a line out of somebody's resume, search for it, and have like 50 resumes come up with that same line. There's a lot of plagiarism.
Wow.
So when you're doing your resumes, make sure you stay away from those generic terms. If you have somebody, quote unquote, do your resume for you, make sure they don't use generic terms. It seems like somebody just there's like a bank of Salesforce job description lines or something, and somebody just cut and paste them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's another big thing that we're dealing with. Like, it's to the point now. I had one client that we were recruiting for, and I was like, every resume I see is crap, right? And me and the recruiter got into it because I'm like, every resume is crap. Like you could verbatim, he copied the job description from like another resume and put it the same order. I'm like, why am I supposed to ignore this? And the guy said, based on my experience in the market, that's just what they do. And I'm like, no, and that like went up to like almost like C-level people, right? Because they were trying to get me to interview that person, which I didn't. But
yeah, there's
but
something
like,
to be said about being able to market yourself appropriately. If you're strong in what you do, there's no reason that you can't create a resume that speaks to your experience. So
yeah, absolutely. Stay away from generic terms, like.
And also, it looks like we also have another question, a statement and a question. I recently went through 3 stages of interview, but didn't get the job. I was told that I didn't because I was overqualified for the role. As a Salesforce newbie, this doesn't make sense to me. From a hiring manager perspective, what did they really mean?
You made more than who they hired.
Yeah, what was the role? What is the role that they passed you over for? Was it like an admin role or consultant role? What were your relatable skills or experience? Because even though you may not have Salesforce admin experience, if you were a project manager or BA, maybe you're too senior for what it is for their expectations or for what the responsibilities were. The other thing that you can always do is ask, why was I passed up? Can you give me some feedback so that I can learn? Don't be afraid to ask. It was a sales support specialist role. Okay. it could have been that your salary expectation was more than what they were willing to pay, maybe. But unless you ask, you don't know.
Yeah, a lot of
So
times
you're-
depending on, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bree.
No, you go ahead.
A lot of times depending on if it's a staffing agency versus a direct placement, things like that. If it's a staffing agency or a firm or something like that, margin is real important to them. So if they say the role is paying like, I don't know, I'm just gonna throw arbitrary numbers out there, $20 an hour. You say, hey, can I have $25? They say, sure, we'll submit you at $25. There's still somebody that got submitted at $20, and that $20 gives them a better margin. So if they have to choose between the two, they're always going to go with the one that gives them the better margin. Right. So like when you're dealing with, if you're dealing with any type of staffing firm, know that margin is very important to them. So when you go and ask for more money and things like that, always keep that in the back of your head.
Barney, she said they told her that they think that she would be bored and because she's overqualified.
Yeah, that sounds like money to me.
Yeah.
It could be a
Just to be
situation
perfectly
where
honest.
yeah, it could be a situation where you're used to working on a certain size or a certain level of client or whatever it is that you're selling to, and that company deals with something smaller, right? So that could also be a possibility. Money does sometimes have a big part in it too. But if they think you're going to be bored, it's probably because you're used to dealing with more complexity than they have to offer from their customer
That
base.
and that there's potentially a retention issue. If they think that you're going to be bored, you're probably not going to stay.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I'm not going to hire her because she's really good and she's going to be bored. Let's find somebody more entry level, somebody that won't be bored because they're less likely to be a retention risk.
Yeah, a lot
Another
of
possible
times-
reason.
And a lot of times the recruiter wants to maintain the relationship with you when they have a role that's going to be something that you else will be a fit for you. They want to put you for that one. So they want to maintain the relationship. And that's like one of the lines that they're trained to feed you to maintain that relationship. They call it keeping it warm or keeping you warm. I learned a lot like with Randstad and talking to the recruiters, but yeah, they call it keeping it warm. And that's like one of the things they do. Just FYI, a little recruiting game, quote unquote.
Okay, so just wanting to remind all of our attendees out there, we have about 7 more minutes until we conclude today's session. Please feel free to post in the chat any questions that you have. Remember that this session is for you. We want to make sure that you get as much value as possible. So if tomorrow you get a call for a technical interview, we want to make sure that you ace it and that you get the job. So please feel free to post some things in the chat. So while we're doing that, I think it's a good time for us to kind of circle back to our presenters here and see if they want to offer any last minute advice or any last advice, or just what do you want to put out there for them to for folks that are interviewing in the Salesforce ecosystem to know. So Bree, I'll start it off with you, then we'll go to Michelle and then Barney, and then we'll have KG and then Chris to kind of give us some feedback, closing it out in that order.
The one thing that I want to leave with all of you is that it's already in you. And I say this to every group that I speak with, it's already in you. You already have the talent, it's in you. And so you need to work on projecting that and making sure that you work on your confidence and your communication and just showcasing who you really are. Your personality is also part of who you are. Showcase that during your interview. Don't try to dumb things down or dumb it down for anybody. You know, if you're too much, they'll go find less, but be who you are, be authentic, be prepared for the fight. It's not going to be easy. Anything worth having is going to be tough getting. And so just know that it'll be worth it in the long run. But I'm here for coaching, mentoring, please reach out to me if you want me to review your LinkedIn profile. If you want me to prep you for an interview, reach out. I'd be more than happy to do that. But you guys it's already in you. You just got to do it. And so you've got a great community of people that really care about you, really want you to be successful. Kyle will promote you and put you on blast for the world to see. And so please just pour into the community.
Yes, I will.
And yeah, practice. Be prepared. Proper preparation prevents poor performance every time. Practice.
That's awesome feedback, Bree. Thank you so much for that. And Michelle, you're next up. And we also do have a comment inside of the chat. There's someone interested in some of the roles that you're offering at your company. If you could please plug in your email address in the chat, that would be great.
Yes, I'm doing that right now. Okay, I just put it in the chat. And did you want me to leave it a last comment? I can do that real quick.
Yes, please.
Okay, I would just say to again repeat this again is just be enthusiastic in your interview and like we said, do your research. And also if you get rejected, I've failed some interviews. I can remember some really embarrassing interviews where I was completely rejected after 10 minutes. The guy was like, I'm done. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just keep going and you'll get another interview somewhere else. It's like dating, right? It's you're doing this dance. Am I going to get along with you? Are you going to get along with me? Look at it that way. If it didn't work out, it wasn't meant to be. And also when you do have a job, really have good relationships with your coworkers. A lot of jobs I get aren't even through interviews. It's just somebody yanking me from one company to the next. So just always work on your relationships too. And that's all. I'll pass on to the next person.
Awesome. All right.
Wait, I do have one more thing.
Yes.
Also, I am here for mentoring too. I did not get a computer science degree. I just learned coding and I love it. So if you want to learn how to code, reach out to me for that too. Okay, I'm really done now. Thanks.
Awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much for that feedback. And we had some some very positive feedback, loving that analogy that you made regarding dating. I did as well. All right, Barney, what are your final thoughts to the group?
Yeah, so just to reiterate what Bree said, it's all about confidence. Just when you go into your tech screen, just have confidence. If unfortunately you don't pass, just never take any feedback personal. Right, just understand the reasons and just get them the next time. Just like I said, it's just all about confidence. That's the best advice I can give. And then please reach out to me anytime. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Anybody needs anything I can help with, please reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barney. All right, KG, what are your final thoughts?
What's up? First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who participated. Thank you to Michelle. Thank you to Bree. Thank you to Barney. Thank you, T, for just being a bomb host. I really appreciate it. But my final thoughts are this: I've interviewed a lot. I've been rejected a lot. Even though I got rejected, after maybe a minute or two, I dusted it off and just say, how can I improve? Salesforce tech, especially for you new entrants and you for career changers. I'm going to quote one of my favorite rappers, Killer Mike. You got to pledge allegiance to the grind. It's just a grind, man. And you just have to just keep going. And also stay learning. Like, I love how everybody's always posting like, oh, I got this cert. I learned this. I learned that. Good. Right now you think of like, oh, it's just accumulating paper, different certs. Doesn't mean anything, but it will get you in the door down the road. You just have to stay sticking to it. I know right now, tech purge is happening, all that kind of stuff. Things are looking kind of questionable. You're feeling a certain way about it. But every day is a new day to have like a new opportunity, man. And keep that positive mental attitude. And it's not BS. Stay confident. Stay confident. You're smart, you're intelligent, but the minute you start doubting it, the recruiters and the hiring managers, we can see that. So, just stay confident, man, and stay believing in yourself. And if you need anything, hit me up, hit any of the presenters up. A lot of y'all who are on here still know me. I will send you my number in a heartbeat. I will be text messaging you in the middle of the night. So I really appreciate it. And if anybody ever needs anything, just hit any of us up. And if you ever need any resources, just join our group. It's called Black in Tech. You'll find it on the Salesforce community group page. And hit us up anytime, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much, KG. All right, Chris, why don't you wrap things up with your final thoughts before we conclude today's session?
Wow, you had me go last and follow all of that great advice. I'm
'Cause you're
gonna
the
have to piggyback off of what Michelle said, and basically say this: you'll always end up where you're supposed to be. You will always end up exactly where you were meant to be. So, do your best, be honest in your interview. I hope that was said at some point during the last hour and a half, to make sure that you're honest about your skills. And even in the interview, if you don't know, as someone who interviews, I will gladly accept an I don't know, but I know how to go find out, over like you just wasting our time, right? But at the end of the day, you will end up exactly where you're supposed to be. So if it doesn't work out, on to the next one. And in time, all will be revealed. So don't get too down on yourself, and good luck.
Awesome feedback there. Well, I want to thank our panelists, Bree Maddox, Michelle, Barney, KG, our leader of the Black in Tech group, and one of our co-leaders, Chris Mathis. And is KB still on here? He may have had to step out into a meeting, but thank you everyone for joining our Black in Tech session, acing the technical interview. Hopefully you have gotten a lot to take away out of this session. I will be posting the recording a little bit later. So earlier in the chat, if you want to go ahead and save the chat first off before the meeting ends, you can. You'll find the link to the Black in Tech Trailblazer community group. That link is available there, as well as our Slack channel. So join us for our next meeting. We'll be announcing that soon. Thanks everyone, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Tasha,
Bye.
for being a wonderful host. You've been awesome.
Thank you.
Yes,
Bye.
Tasha, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you,
Thank you,
Bree.
everyone.
I love this ecosystem. It's amazing. All right. Sorry. I'm hyped up. My bad.
Bye, KV.